Hey guys, welcome to IQ Chess. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and welcome to the fifth episode of 1F4 Burst Opening Masterclass. In the first episode, we looked at a brief introduction. Second episode was all about the reverse classical Dutch setup. The third and fourth were dedicated to the Swiss and the Frumps gambit respectively. Now, at this point, theoretically speaking, you are well versed enough to go out and play some real games with the Burst Opening. We have prepared for everything from D5, C5, knight to c3 and other some rarely played lines. However, for sake of completion, there are some setups, some major ones that I had not discussed yet. So this is basically the video on the Leningrad setup, where you don't play for the move b3, but rather you play the move g3. So yeah, I don't personally play this variation myself. However, I have played it with the black pieces as a Dutch player. However, I have not really been endorsing this as a weapon for the birds opening. So yeah, anyway, if some of you don't really like the classical positions, this might be for you. So let's start. F4, D5, knight F3, knight F6, G3, C5, and here is just fianchetto G6 and castles and bishop to G7. Now, officially, this is the Leningrad. Like if your opponent instead of the fianchetto here, if they just go for something like E6, you still can play the same way, but the technical name would be different. It won't be called as the Leningrad anymore. So that's just a quick note for you people. So yeah, first we look at this variation. Here the main idea is to just play for E4. Like the other variation, we just fought for the dark squares. However, they're gonna play the move D3 and try to push on with the move E4 very soon. After like let's say black castles, here a really key move for these positions is to play the move queen to E1. Basically supporting the center with a queen and then preparing to push on. Quick warning, do not do this with the rook because that is bad. Like if you play rook here, it's just gonna end bad for you because you cannot really push because black will just exchange the pawns and then your queen will get traded and then following that knight takes 24, we're just simply down a pawn with no real compensation. So for that reason, I'm not really too fond of this rook to e1 idea. It's not supposed to be played. So yeah, be warned about that. So in this position, queen to e1 is the that we're supposed to play. Let's say knight c6. They're gonna push on with e4, and here we reach a critical position. Now black has a couple of choices. Black can either take us or push on, or maybe like defend the pawn. However, the defending thing is not really that, like meat of it. Let's just first look at the push one because this is the most common. I think this is what we'll face the most. Here, very important thing that I have to remember is the move knight to a3. It looks weird and right on the rim is grim, we say, but in this case, because this square of c4 is very juicy, we would like to exploit it. And remember, black cannot actually play the move b5. So that's the reason why we do not play knight to d2 and then move here, because black can actually simply play the move b5 and stop us. So for that reason, we're just gonna go knight to a3 and after something like e5, which is the best move. Will you face it? Probably not if you're low rated. Maybe if your opponent has studied the theory behind the Dutch or the bird's opening, or if they are like 2000 plus, you will face this move. I personally don't play, so I have no real experience on what people will play. However, if they play something else, also it's not a big deal for you. We're gonna continue the plan. At this point, black should really not take you. The purpose of e4, e5 was not to capture on f4, but rather to just get space. However, if your opponent just played that out of intuition, the chances are that they're gonna just take you, and then after bishop takes on f4, something like bishop to e6, developing moves. Another key idea in this position is to push on with e5. This move basically gives you some really juicy squares actually, like these f6 and the d6 square are very weak right now because there are no pawns here. So after the knight moves something like this, you can further move on, like play moves like knight to d6, queen to e2, double up the rooks if you want, or play moves like b3 and just move on forward. Excuse me. So yeah, that was the specific variation. Let's come back a bit at this point. Also, if your opponent does not play that, what else can they play? Something like a6 is seen a bit because, like, I'm sorry, just trying to deliberately shot forward. It's nothing fancy, just continue with knight to c4. And after b5, knight c to e5. If they exchange, we are happy with that because the knight has to now depart, and then bishop to f4 basically defends the pawn. At this point, they have to play the move f6. Now that makes their king side quite fragile, and meanwhile, when they are trying to break apart your central pawns, you can just play moves like c3 and just basically get your own attack if you want to, basically counteract this bishop with your bishop. So that's one option that we have in these positions. Let's come back all the way now. Now that's basically about the pushing part. Now what if they just simply be like, yeah, why not just capture the pawn? We will take back with the pawn. And after the move e5, which is probably what you will see the most, because in this variation e5 is a lot more natural. If they play something like bishop to g4, it's nothing fanciful. It's just move the knight to center, attack the pieces. You are not really worried about doubling the pawns. Also, if the bishop comes out, h3 is a very good idea, because if they exchange you, we are happy. We just got a bishop or a knight. And then if they don't, just move back. Now, I'll just show you, for example. If they come here, we can just play moves like this and just basically, if they don't think, if they go back, actually they're very happy because, yeah, now good luck in being attack. Like, suddenly they're just attacking them completely, and it's just very good for us. So we just capture it here, and then if they play the move e5, something like knight to c3 is the best idea. Again, if they take you, bishop takes, nothing fanciful. Again, you want to go for this e5 idea. So that was the specific variation with the e4 push. Now, what else can happen? Something like defending the pawn really is not a thing, because again, if they play the move, let's say e6, now you'll just be pushing forward. Like, we are not caring because this knight has to depart now suddenly, and we have a completely closed center. We can play moves like c3 and just bring our knights, bring the bishop out, move like h6, h3, g4, h4, g4, just go and blast them on the king side. So that's just giving you too much attack for basically no real reason. So I don't really think I don't play the move e6 in this position. So yeah, that was the setup played for the move e4. Now, what else do we have as a choice? Now, one thing that you can do after the castles is to not play for queen t1, but rather go for this move c3. Now, this is kind of playing in the style of the checks defense. If you have, if you know what I mean by that, like checks is basically e4. E4, b6, and then after you play d4, knight f6. Basically, instead of attacking black, plays this move c6. It's a setup for black. So it's just very similar to that. Now, something like knight to c6. Again, we can play knight to a3, and basically rook to e1. And later on, after some developing moves, now we can play for the move 4. Again, trade can happen, or the pushing can happen. If they take you, you can just move the queen out. Actually, if they take you, it's not a good idea to just take them back immediately. Move the queen out, because we are gambiting a couple of pawns, so it's kind of that. Let's come back a bit. Okay, so another idea you can also play for is this move, knight bd2. It's also played quite a bit. Simply trying to support the e4 with a knight rather than the rook. After like knight to c6, you can play the move e4, exchange, and then the queens drop off. This variation specific is just way too drawish in my opinion. You can play moves like e5 very soon. Your opponent has to play the move e5 by themselves. It's not, let's say, something like knight bishop develops or something like b3. Now we are playing the move e5. This bishop is now dead basically, and then play for c6, b4 if you want, or play for b3, bishop here, correct your moves, and then have a nice game after that. So that was this variation with knight bd2. Now, at this point, we just actually have covered the main part of it. Let's come back a bit, rather. So at this point, like after the move like g6, you don't really have to castle. There are some choices, like black can actually place moves like bishop to g4, which necessarily are not good. However, you might face these moves because it's quite natural for the opponents to just come at this really weird looking move. It's just actually simple, just play knight to e5. Now, after the bishop moves, suddenly this diagonal is very weak because now we can play moves like c4. This bishop departing is a massive problem for them. Now, the reason we play the move d3 here, like let's say, the reason why we don't play the move of c4 right away is because the move bishop to e4 actually has some problems for us. Like we have to trade the bishops, and we are not really that's happy in that setup. Like, however, with d3 we preemptively cover the e4 square, and now this is just simple idea. This diagonal is extremely weak. Like they were exploited very well. Black card really push to their GGs. Just takes, pawn takes, and then bishop takes will be game over for them. So for that reason, it's not a real thing. So black has to know what they're doing. They have to play something like e6, and then they can just develop again. They can't really push on because we have the same threat of just knight takes. So nevertheless, this is also something that can happen, and I hope you are prepared for it. Now coming back a bit, there are some other goofy variations. Like I've faced this once when I accidentally played this variation before, where basically your opponent shuts the diagonal down. They know that they want to go to bishop g2, so they're like, now I'm just closing the diagonal down and I'm not letting you put any pressure in this diagonal. It's fine because we still gotta play the move bishop to g2, bishop to g4, something like this, knight to e5. And actually, believe it or not, the best move here is actually the move h5, really aggressive way of playing. Will you face it? You might if you are up there in the rating ladder, but I don't really care. Just knight takes, trade the pieces down, and then play for b3, and then just simple developing moves: bishop to b2, queen to c7, d3, black castles long. You can play the move e3. You can also put your knight here, and then put your queen, and then castle, and basically it's gonna be a battle to death. Both of you have just castled the queen side, or if you feel brave enough, you can actually castle the king side if you want to, and then basically blast here, like go for attacking the queen side. It's dangerous, but it can be played in short time controls. So that was a quick recap of the Leningrad variation. I do apologize if there are any inaccuracies because I don't really play the variation myself, so I cannot really speak from my personal side. I've always believed in the classical Dutch throughout the years. Whenever I've played the Birds Opening, I have always believed in the move of b3 over the move g3. So there could be some inaccuracies. For that sake, I'm actually putting all the moves in the description below. You can import them into any chess engine you want and then basically analyze yourself. And if you do find any mistakes in my words or variations, let me know in the comment section below. I will make a follow-up or I'll just correct it if I can possibly do. So yeah, that was it for today's video, guys. If you have enjoyed the video so far, please subscribe to the channel. We're actually rocking past the 400 subscriber mark. We are at 417 at this point, if I'm correct. So that's a huge feat. We just hit 400 yesterday. So 17 subscribers one day. I'm very happy for that. Also, if you have not watched the entire series The Birds Opening yet, I will link down the playlist below the description, and also you can find the link for it in the iCard above. The start of the video earlier. So that's one thing. And also, if you have any more suggestions or ideas, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. I do read and hack every single comment I receive. So yeah, you won't be unnoticed. So yeah, till the next video, stay tuned. Bye.